Hard Hat's all about showing up to play hard, doing what it takes to win.
If you want to cement legacy, win another.
He's your third center.
You don't want to pump him up too much, but it's hard not to.
This is maybe the most I've ever agreed with you. What's up, everyone? Welcome to another episode of the Garden Report, and we have our fourth Celtics player joining the show this offseason, Jordan Walsh, who was selected with the 38th overall pick in 2023. Jordan, how are you doing today?
I'm great. Can't complain about anything.
So, Jordan, are you in Boston right now? Have you been in Boston over the last few weeks?
Yep. I've been here. Just been working out in the gym, trying to get it back in the habit of hooping and working hard. So I've been here for a while.
Are you planning on doing the summer league this year?
Yes. Yeah. I'll go to summer league this year for sure.
So what are some of the goals you have for this summer? Obviously, going into this is your third year coming up now. What are some of the things you're trying to work on this off season in the summer league? Like, do you have specific goals in mind already?
I would just say go in there and try to be the best version of myself. I've kind of tried to stay away from thinking too much about summer league or trying to overanalyze the situation of like what I could be, what I could do, how I want to play, how I want to be looked at. But because I feel like last year I made that mistake and kind of like overthought everything and put so much emphasis on trying to be the best version of myself or trying to do this, trying to do that, and it turned out to be I wasn't any of those things. I wasn't even myself. So now I've kind of like stayed away from thinking about summer league until we get there. But I'm definitely excited for it again, for sure. I want to be able to play against some real guys in the summers. I think no other way to get better than to just play against real guys, real talented people.
You mentioned last summer didn't go as you planned. After that, did you talk to some of the coaches? Like, what's your process now to have a different mindset? Is it like people in your life telling you, like, at the end of the day, it's just summer league. You don't have to put so much weight on it. Like, just kind of enjoy it and put your best foot forward?
Yeah, for sure there are people who go there and they say stuff like that. But like if you're a competitor and you're a hooper, you're an athlete, you never want to go out and lay an egg on the court. You never want to go out and not play as well as you can. And so the competitor in me kind of like changed my mentality to how do I get better? Like I know what happened, why did it happen, analyze it, figure it out. Now let's change it. Let's figure out what that was and let's change it. And so that's kind of like the phase I'm going into as we get closer. Obviously, I'm going to finish this week out with, staying away from summer league, thinking about it, and then starting going into next week, starting to kind of like shift gears and to focus more on, how do I play with our summer league roster? How do I fit in? How do I find a way to be successful in that? So that's kind of the process I'm going through right now.
How do you look back on your second year? Obviously, I think the progression was, rookie season, you mostly spent it in Maine. Second year, you have that great training camp preseason, earn the spot with Boston for pretty much the whole season, but not a ton of playing time. Obviously, there's a progression there, but I'm sure you're a guy who wants to play, who wants to get out there, wants to earn those minutes. How do you look back on year two, being with Boston for pretty much the full season, but not carving out a consistent role there? Like, what's your assessment of how the year went?
I think the year didn't go as planned in a good way. I feel like I felt like in the beginning of the year, the organization and Joe thought that I would be in the G League for the whole year and do a second year fully in the G League. And I think that after the preseason, after the training camp and all that, I feel like they felt like I had shown enough to where I could earn a spot to be with the team full time, which for me was a great step. Like that was a huge step, just that alone. And then getting to play some minutes in the beginning of the season, the middle of the season, it's also another big step for me, knowing that the original plan was to be in the G League for the whole year. So to have that kind of like that step happen in just a year, I felt was really positive and was really good. Obviously going into the training camp this year, I want to put on the same, if better, not performance for everybody to raise the standard again, so that this next year doesn't look like how they thought it would be, and try to really put myself out there and try to take advantage of whatever opportunity may be there.
What are the things you were showing in practice or just kind of behind the scenes that made them say, hey, Jordan, we're going to keep you in Boston and that it's worth your time to be with the parent club rather than the G League?
I honestly have no clue. No idea. I mean, I would assume that, they saw that like my confidence level increase and like the production increase and me kind of like start grasping the tendencies and skills that are necessary for us to be a championship team. I'm guessing that's what they saw. Obviously, I have no clue. But I felt like I put my best foot forward and it worked out. So I'm happy it kind of went that way.
Jrue heading out to Portland. Obviously, there's going to be some shakeup this summer with the roster, and that's a guy you've learned from, played alongside, and you've had a lot of really positive things to say about in terms of the experience of being his teammate. Or what was your reaction to that? And were you able to shoot him a text or send him well wishes or anything like that over the last day or so here?
Yeah. So I mean, I heard that this was like apparently it was supposed to be like rumors. I don't know if it's true. I have no clue. What I do know is that like, um, Jrue was definitely a mentor for me for sure. He was definitely a guy that I definitely looked up to, and I would hate for if he's not in Boston or whatever the situation may be, I would hate for him to be away from us and the organization because he's such a great guy and also such a great player. So obviously, I think anybody if he were to take that step away from us, obviously, I feel like everybody would feel kind of a hole left in their heart from Jrue. I think the fans feel it. I think we feel it. But yeah, obviously, if that does happen, then I obviously wish him the best.
And Jordan, I know, you mentioned, that he was a mentor for you, he's somebody you were close with. You've had another teammate get traded. I think Jaden Springer, probably the only one during your tenure, unless I'm missing somebody. But what is it like to just like be on an NBA team and have a group of guys that you get along well with and you want to continue competing together? But the reality is that like trades happen, guys get waived. You don't know when it's going to happen. I would imagine there's a little bit of anticipation before the trade deadline. Right now, I know there's a lot of moves happening around the league. Like, is there a sense of anxiety? Do you just kind of, turn it all off and hope that none of it really affects you? Like, how do you kind of navigate that? Because it is a unique situation that really only professional athletes have to go through, that you might be told, hey, you're actually up and going to this like city you've never been to or you've been to, but you've never wanted to live in or anything like that. Like, how do you navigate that?
I think that wherever you are, whatever team you are, whatever situation you are, that you always just put your best foot forward. Obviously, you want to build a relationship with these guys that lasts longer than the time that you're in the NBA or the time that they're in the NBA. And so, building a bond with somebody that'll last, is super important. Um, I think it is tough though, kind of like 'cause like what I'm used to, coming from like college or like AAU back in the day, or like high school. Guys aren't really leaving in the middle of the season. You have one team you start with, and then you finish with that team all the way through. Like some guys might get hurt, but usually that team you start with is when you finish with the whole season, and it doesn't really change that much unless you're like a senior leaving or maybe that transfer. But so it is different. It definitely is different. It's a weird kind of feeling. You can always feel like the anticipation coming up to trade deadline, and so it's definitely hard to see your friends go. Um, but obviously, we want the best for them. If the best for them is in a different situation, then you should be happy for them to go out and get that that play or get that opportunity wherever it may be.
In terms of his mentorship, what are some of the memories you have? Is there one story that stands out of playing with him or conversations you guys had or, anything that you look back on from having played with him and learned from him? What stands out?
I think one of the biggest things was memories. I would say was us going to dinner. We went to like a Korean barbecue place or like something like that in one city, and we just sat down. We just talked. Obviously, there were other guys there, but I was just kind of like more of a sponge, just kind of like absorbing everything that they were saying, and everything that he was saying. Whether it was basketball related or off the court stuff. Just trying to find things that I could relate to, and there were a lot of messages in that, and so just trying to take all that and internalize it for sure.
Was there anything specific, like advice or just message you had from that or any other conversations you had with him that stood out or even just parts of his game you were able to pull from?
For sure, I think everybody noticed that his whenever the offender is attacking him, he's kind of like jumping and swiping at the same time, usually resulting in a steal. Like he did against the Patriots in the playoffs last year. That was huge. That's the one that kind of like everybody remembers. That specific scenario, I've talked to him many times about. Like how does he do it so consistently? How does he know when to do it? How does he know the time? How does he get it done? How does he execute it? And so that definitely is one of the biggest things for sure.
With the way the season ended, obviously you guys didn't achieve the ultimate goal of going back to back, and with Tatum's injury, I can imagine that was. I mean, we were there. It was not a happy night. How did that feeling? How was that night for you? Kind of being on the team, and was there a sense when the season ended of like this might be our last run here with this core, and like this is kind of a little bit of a farewell in some sorts, not knowing who it's going to be, but just kind of hearing all the chatter.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that like when you're going through that, you're thinking, who am I going to miss next year? Or who's going to be gone? I think more of the thought was, how do we stick in this in a way to finish it off? And then once it did end in a way that we didn't want it to, all right, now where do we go from here? But I'm pretty sure that nobody was thinking, oh, it's got to break up, it's got to end, people got to go. At least I know I wasn't. I was still just happy to be in the same locker room, same team as Jrue, KP, JB, JT, like all those guys. So I definitely was not thinking like that. But now that time is upon us and we see things happening and whatnot, it's kind of a eye opener to like, okay, this is gonna look different. Like, how do we find a way to win and move around it? So it's definitely a tough time, but we gotta find a way.
It seems like that ability to live in the moment is maybe what makes you guys different from us on the outside. They're always thinking about what's next and what does it mean. And like you guys are all, the athletes themselves, like probably what makes you successful is being able to just focus on the game and focus on the play and all of that. Now that you're kind of in this spot as you're preparing for summer league in the off season, have you started thinking about like what you see for yourself with this team moving forward and like maybe if you might have a bigger opportunity, or are you still kind of laser focused on just like your workouts and everything that is currently ongoing?
I think that right now everybody's confused because we don't know what the team would look like next year, so we don't know if their opportunity is going to be there, or if it won't be, or if it'll be smaller, if it'll be bigger, if it'll actually be one. So I think right now the main focus, at least for me personally, is just find a way to kill P in practice every day. So that's what I'm doing. That's kind of like my focus, is find a way to just dominate him. Find a way to kill him every day. So that's all I've been focusing on.
Payton's at the facility every day.
He's here, yeah. He's in the gym for sure.
Is he leading like workouts? Is he talking to you guys? Like, is there kind of a group mentality during a time like this where you're working on different things together? Is this the kind of time of year where you're working on your own thing?
So I mean, this time of year is definitely focused on like preparation for summer league. For sure. So it's cool to see guys like him in the gym. Him, Sam, and Al are all in there. Starting to get back into it. So it's cool to have them come in and still talk to you, and you can see the hard work that they're putting in. Obviously, when they don't have to. Al don't got to be there. Pete don't got to be there. Sam don't got to be there, but they are, and they're working out with us. And so to see it kind of like puts it into perspective, the difference that you have to be in, the level it takes to get to where they're at. And so to be able to go up against them every day is obviously it's great because, they don't have to do it. So.
And Al's a guy who took you under his wing the day you got drafted, or, the first days of your career, giving you advice, all that stuff, the movie recommendations. Like, it feels like he really looked out for you when you were coming into the league. And now I know after the season, he said he's got to, meet with his family and figure out what he's going to do for the future here and free agency and all of that. A lot of guys have already talked about how much they want Al back, how important he's been to all you guys. What has he meant to you when you look at it? And how much do you want to see him back? I know he's obviously there every day right now and you're able to see him around, but just what's the importance of Al been to your career so far?
I mean, he's a crucial mentor. I've had a couple of talks with JT, and he's stressed how Al's been a big help to him in his career, and him, finding the the daily grind or like the routine of what he does. And I think I'm looking for that same thing in Al. Seeing what he does every day. It's the same thing every day, same time. Like it's consistent, and that's what I'm trying to get for myself. And so he's definitely been a leader in that sense, but then also just off the court stuff that has nothing to do with basketball. It's just like you said, like we talked about before, movie recommendations and suits to wear. Like it could be anything, and it's just he's just a helpful guy to have, plus a good dude like off the court, but definitely still on the court.
What do people not know about him? Like things he's interested in, things you guys have shared. Like, did something surprise you in your conversations with him that, he's interested in, or you guys kind of shared an interest in maybe?
I mean, he's really smart. He has a lot of like random general knowledge about stuff. Like we do these trivia every day, game days, and he's like killing it like every time. He's always like every month we have a ranking, and he's always the top. Like he just has his random knowledge of the most random stuff is crazy. So it's fun to just get random tidbits from him. It's hilarious.
Jordan, we've been asking this of all of the players that have been on, but do you have a favorite Joe Mazzulla story, and what's it been like to be coached by Joe as your first NBA coach?
My favorite Joe Mazzulla story. Honestly, this is fairly recent. It's not my favorite story, but it's definitely up there. Apparently, Joe just did a jiu-jitsu match in Connecticut, and apparently I missed it, but he did a fight, an official fight, and we were talking about it, and I said, if you lose this fight, you lose so much respect in the community, in the locker room, and everything. And so that was hilarious. Me, JB, and Joe were talking about it, and it was Saturday, and I was like Joe, and I was like with Joe and JB, and I said, what would you rather do on a Saturday than watch Joe get choked out on the mat? Like, what else would you rather do? And so everybody was like, "You've got a good point. We should definitely watch this." Unfortunately, I missed it, but I really I haven't seen him in the gym since, so it might be a bad sign. But I gotta definitely reach out to him and see how that went for sure.
Wait. So you don't know if he won? You don't
I
know
have no clue. I need to find out.
Did the other guys go? Did Jaylen go?
I don't think anybody went because Joe he went somewhere that was like an hour and a half away from us.
So no one could see him.
Yeah, so nobody could but if I find out that he lost,
You'll have to keep us posted.
Oh, for sure. I might put him in a chokehold or something when I see him.
No, I didn't know that he was actually like at the point where he would compete in a competition. I thought it was like maybe like a little meditative hobby. I didn't realize it was at that extent.
Yeah,
He's actually out there.
Neither did I.
Has he invited you to a class? Tori was saying he tried to get him to go.
No, he didn't try to invite me to a class. What he does is he tries to hurt me. So those are my teaching lessons. Right before practice, whatever. Him trying to put me in a chokehold. That's my lesson.
PrizePicks is the best place to turn your sports knowledge into cash. With millions of members, PrizePicks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 2,000 times your cash. Run your game all season long on PrizePicks. PrizePicks is the best way to get action on sports in more than 30 states, including California, Texas, and Georgia. PrizePicks is the best place to win cash while watching sports. Join millions of users and sign up today. On PrizePicks, you can mix and match player projections from different sports, combine your favorite basketball players with players from baseball, hockey, esports, and much more. PrizePicks invented the flex play, which means you can still cash out if your lineup isn't perfect. You can double your money even if one of your picks doesn't hit. Sign up today and get $50 instantly when you play your first $5 lineup. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. PrizePicks is the best way to win real money this basketball season. Which players are going off, which ones aren't. Make your picks in less than 60 seconds and turn your sports takes into real money all season long on PrizePicks. Download the app today and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That is code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, run your game.
You mentioned Jaylen, Jordan. Obviously, you're wearing his shoes different points of the year. We've seen him out in Boston a couple of times over the last few weeks, giving those away, and he's been around the facility a little bit, I'm sure. What's your relationship been like with him, and how did you start wearing the 741s?
My relationship was great with him. I mean, he's helped me out with a lot of different things. Great guy. Obviously, also another good mentor. I think that I started to wear his shoes because I liked what he represented. I thought that like yeah, he's a very strong-willed individual. Definitely very opinionated for sure. But I felt like when it came to like his core beliefs of like giving back to the community and like basketball being the main focus, like I agreed with everything that he stood for. And when it comes to that, and so I thought that I aligned with everything. And the shoes were great. So I mean that definitely helped. But I mean, yeah, he just helped me with so many things. He was such a great dude off the court that, I also wanted to show my appreciation and love by wearing his shoes while I played.
You mentioned with Al, the thing that people don't know about him is that he's really smart and good at trivia and all that. Is something about Jaylen that would surprise people that know him better? I think that everybody knows him as the basketball player that he is, and that he's very serious when he's like at the podium. But behind the scenes, is there things that are different about him?
Yeah, he's a fighter too. Him and Joe are like two jiu-jitsu masters or something. It's crazy. Um, but yeah, I mean, everybody sees how much he is like into fashion and like the community and stuff. But yeah, he's definitely a fighter too. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if I see him in a jiu-jitsu match coming up here pretty soon.
Who would you
Um,
pick between those two?
JB, JB
All
for
right.
sure. Sorry, Joe, but I'm going with JB.
So we have just a couple rapid fire questions here for you, and then we'll wrap up. I asked this one to a couple of the guys, but if you could be roommates with anybody on the team, who do you think would make the best roommate, and who do you think would make the worst roommate from last year's Celtics team?
I would either pick between Nemi or T. Craig. T. Craig's hilarious. So that's why I would pick him and Nemi just because me and Nemi have gotten really close. Although JB wouldn't be a bad pick either. And then worst. Ooh, who would be the worst? Maybe like I don't know. Maybe JT or JB just because I feel like they'd have a lot of clothes everywhere. Like it'd be a lot of clothes and like shoes and bags all over the place. It'd be kind of messy. Maybe that's probably who I would say, I guess.
Who's your player comp? Who's like the guy you try to model your game after as you were growing up and, that you wanted to play with, or even a guy you look at now and say, like, that's the kind of role, that's the kind of style I want to play? Is anyone that stands out?
I mean, growing up, I wanted to play like KD. I liked the way he played. I thought the way he played was super entertaining. I think now that I'm in the league, though, my comps are the more realistic comps would be like Mikal Bridges, Aaron Nesmith, Jaden McDaniels. I think are the more reasonable and closer to my play style now. I think those make the most sense for sure.
You mentioned Aaron Nesmith. Were you watching the NBA playoffs and viewing it as like, okay, this is the role that I could play on a championship team? How do you watch the playoffs now that you're actually in the league?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Definitely, there's a little bit of me being a fan, a basketball guy, kind of like wanting to watch, see who wins, and be appreciative of what's they're doing, but then also like a competitor version of me is like what makes this guy great, what makes him so good to play in these moments, and like how do I take that and make it my own, or find my own identity off of that. And so it's kind of finding a balance between both worlds kind of thing.
Who's your favorite athlete, artist, anyone from Dallas, anyone who, grew up around where you grew up or around that you looked up to or something like that? Is anyone in that sense that stands out to you?
I mean, Charles Villeneuve is somebody I look up to. Obviously, he's not from Dallas, but now when I met him, he was living in Dallas. And so he's definitely a mentor. Um, there's probably a bunch of other people, but he's probably the one that stands out the most just because I feel like he was the most involved and he was kind of like the guy who kind of like took me under his wing, showed me the ropes because I had the most in common with him. So definitely him for sure.
You got another one, Noah?
That's it for me. Jordan, thank you so much for joining. Really appreciate it. I know you're busy. We will see you in Vegas for Summer League, if not sooner. And we look forward to, we hopefully we'll hear a little bit more about that Joe Mazzulla Jiu-Jitsu fight. That's the thing that I will definitely be thinking about coming out of this conversation.
For sure, yeah. I need to go figure out if he won or lost and give him a call or something.
Thank you, Jordan.